Intro Algebra Lesson 1-5A. A number of times when we're dealing with algebra, we have to take problems that are words, specifically word problems that a lot of people struggle with, and convert them or translate them into mathematical concepts, equations, formulas, etc. And because of this, there are some very specific terminology that we need to be familiar with to allow us to make those transformations or translations accurately, thus allowing us to get the correct answer. So we have some words like addition. Obviously, when we hear addition, most of us can think of plus, but there is the word sum, which also means addition. The concept of more than something, so currently I have this amount, but then 5 more is added to it. I have more than I had before. And plus or increased. So I should put a comma there. Plus, obviously for addition, and then increased. Something is more than it was before. Things were added on. We do pretty well with the ideas of sum, more than, plus, increased. Sometimes the more than gets a little bit confused with an inequality sign, so you have to be careful. Subtraction, words like difference or less than you had before. Again, not to confuse this with an inequality sign. Minus makes us think of subtraction, and decreased. The amount we had is now smaller than what we had before. Multiplication, some words used for this would be product or times, multiplied, anything we see like this. I'd like to throw in occasionally, you might see the word of. So if you were to find 25% of something, you'd convert the 25% into a decimal. The word of would mean multiply, so 0.25 times whatever you were 25% of. And division, for the most part quotient and divided, but also per. Per is another key word that tells us we might be dealing with some division. If you see any combinations of these, you have to be careful. Now, each one of them requires 2 quantities. You can't take one number and add it. It needs to have something else. It could add to 0, it could add to 5, it could add to 1,000,000, but it has to have something else it can add to. The same for subtraction, the same for multiplication, the same for division. You can't just have one number. So if it says the quotient of means there must be 2 things being divided. Quotient of 2 things. And those 2 things might be right after the word quotient. So you have to look for those. Now, in being careful, I'm curious if you think there is a difference between the phrase less than something and the phrase is less than. They look very similar. Yes, there's one word difference. Do they mean anything different? So here we have 26 less than 50. 26 less than 50. So if I scored 50 points, but somebody scored 26 less than my 50 points, would that be an inequality or would it be a value? 26 less than 50 translated is this. Because we are taking the 26 away from the 50, resulting in a value less than the 50. 26 less than 50. Now that's different than 26 is less than 50. At 26 is less than 50, we would say 26 is less than 50. That's an inequality. So hopefully you see the difference between something less than another, meaning we took that amount away, and something is less. The is less means it's either equal, equal to, or greater than or equal to, or greater than or less than, or some form of an inequality. So you must watch those words very carefully. Alright, second example. Translate this entire phrase. Well, as we go through it, I like to look for things that I know, like the word 9 is going to get translated into the number 9. The phrase is greater than makes me think of that inequality. It's greater than what? It's greater than 3. The word times makes me think of multiplication. And when they say a number, s, they're referring to the variable. Now, we have just translated that. 9 is greater than 3 times a number s. 9 is greater than 3s. Translated. Going through the words, taking the words and converting them into the mathematical language. More translation. 3, so here we have 3 times, so that means multiplication. 3 times what? You can't just take 3 and multiply it. 3 has to get multiplied by something right here. So we have to have another value. So 3 times the quantity, okay, the quantity means there's going to be something that's done, some math is being done, where it says 2 less than a number x. So a number x means a variable. 2 less means minus 2. So we can't do 3 times this negative 2. This means 3 times the quantity of that, which quantity means parentheses. There's going to be something happening in those parentheses. And the something that's happening in those parentheses is this 2 is going to get taken away from that x. So that's where I would put the x here and the negative 2 or the minus 2 there. So now 3 is being multiplied by this quantity, whatever that result is. So say I said x is equal to 10. I'd put a 10 right here, and 10 minus 2 is 8. Then I could take 3 and multiply by that quantity of 8. If I said x was 20, 20 minus 2 is 18. So I could take 3 and multiply by that quantity of 18. But I can't take 3 and multiply it until I find out what this quantity is equal to. And then the last part, we have is, which means equals. And then we have 10, which we can convert. So as a full translation, I would say 3 times the quantity of 2 less than x, a number x, is 10. Now, this is not easy. This kind of stuff takes practice. We must practice these concepts and becoming familiar with how math is written in a language, or as a language. And our last example, more translation. Write the equation or inequality, so be careful. 5 less than something, 5 less than means subtract 5. And what are we 5 less than? We're 5 less than the difference of something. The difference makes us think subtraction. So we already have some subtraction here, but this 5 less is going to happen after we take the difference of something else. After we take the difference of 20 and a number x. So first, we have to do the difference of 20 and x. So that's going to look like this. 20 minus x. We've got to do that. After we do that, then we can do the minus 5. Because it's 5 less than the difference of 20 minus x. Then we have is greater than or equal, which is this inequality, and the number 10. So again, this is the difference of 20 and x. Difference of 20 and a number x, which is right here. It's 5 less than that amount. So we find out what this is, then we subtract 5 more, and it has to be greater than or equal to 10.